Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kayleen. This is my 9th video on my channel, so we have 8 more to watch if this is your first one. I started this YouTube channel to promote my book. I am writing a graphic memoir of how I used my health and fitness knowledge to stop my mother with mild dementia from forgetting me, and it worked. But today's video, I thought I would show a fitness professional or personal trainer or group exercise instructor or nutritionist. I think I have many hats. I wanted to show my fitness spreads in my bullet journal. I've been a big bullet journaler since I learned about it, but I've also been a big journaler my entire life. So I thought I would share with you all of my spreads that would help me keep me healthy. Today is May 1st, 2022. I will be finished with my book midsummer of this year. And like I said, it's called Mom Remembers Me. So the first thing I wanted to go over is some of the mistakes that I've watched over the years. So just to give you a little background, I've been teaching all kinds of fitness classes for 35 years. I started off teaching high-low classes. I originally wanted to have a part-time job that didn't take away time from exercising, so I thought I should start teaching aerobics. So that's what I did. I went into a club back in Western Massachusetts where I grew up, and I told them that I wanted to teach. And when you know what the woman said to me, she goes, "Okay, go teach that class right now." And that's exactly what I did with absolutely no training whatsoever. But I was probably taking classes there for a little while. It wasn't a lot. I grew up doing gymnastics and swimming, and I was always pretty active. Nothing competitive. I was never cared. I still don't care about competing with other people and whether I win or not. So I never did anything that required any kind of competition. But when I went in there to teach that one class, that was when you did maybe 10 minutes of cardio, 10 minutes of jumping jacks, knees up, and the entire rest of the 45 minutes was all doing calisthenics, which is now what's called Pilates nowadays. So the side-lying Pilates, on your hands and knees and doing the horse, all those kind of things. So that was what I started doing for 45 minutes in all different ways. And I got so interested in health and fitness that I started reading more information. I was actually working, this was after I got my bachelor's degree, and I was working as a secretary on Main Street with not very much to do in my job, so I ended up reading lots and lots. I read every single Shape magazine and every single Muscle Fitness magazine from cover to cover, and then I ended up moving from that little all-female club into a YMCA, and then I ended up decided to go to Springfield College and get my master's. And then over the years, I just kept getting bored with my repertoire. I wanted to teach more and more classes. So now I'm actually teaching more sports as well. I was teaching, if you look at a group exercise schedule, I have taught almost everything on a group exercise schedule, from step to kickboxing to high-low to step and sculpt to circuit training, and of course cardio dance. I started doing a lot of social dance, and then I incorporated all of those moves into cardio dance, and then of course Zumba and all those other cardio dance classes came out. And I did get certified in Zumba, but I don't want to learn their choreography. I'd rather use my own choreography. And then of course I got my master's, and now I've been teaching at I was teaching at 2 colleges, 2 community colleges. Now I'm only at 1 community college. And I actually brought my mother with me when I moved her out here to California with me. I brought her to the 2 colleges that I taught at. She walked around the campuses while I was teaching. It worked out very good. So the first thing I want to go over with you is called the FIT principle. And it will really guide you in how to design your own exercise program. And I would encourage you to send me any comments on this video. I would love to hear any comments, any questions you might have. I think a lot of times people make things more complicated than they really have to be. So I'm not going to show the FIT principle up on the screen. I'm going to have you guys get a piece of paper and write it out yourself. If I just show it to you, you're going to forget. But if you write it out, you're going to remember. And I also wanted to remind you that my videos are going to be simple. I'm not going to have all these images coming and going back and forth and stuff. I really believe that that's distracting. So I want to help you to concentrate and focus. So the FIT principle, the F stands for frequency. So if you write this on a piece of paper, write F, and then vertically down write I, and then T, and then T. So the F stands for frequency, and that means 3 to 5 times a week. And for strength training, it's going to be 2 to 3 non-consecutive days. And I'll show you this on my push-up challenge, how I do non-consecutive days. And the I stands for intensity. The easiest way to think about the intensity is it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be like you're strolling the mall. It should be a little bit of a challenge. One of the T's is for time. When it comes to cardio, it should be 20 to 60 minutes. And it has to be continuous movement using your lower body. So if you think about putting some kind of a meter on your belly button that's connected to your legs, and as long as your legs keep on moving for at least 20 minutes, you are doing your cardiovascular or aerobic activity, which is the same thing. I've had many students get so confused with that. They think that if you stop, even I had a student, she wanted to use her working as retail as part of her cardio for her extra credit. And I said, well, don't you stop when you're behind the retail with the cashier and someone who was buying something? And she said, yes. So like I said, your legs have to keep on moving. If they stop within that 20 minutes, it's kind of like resetting your meter, and then that's how you want to restart it and move continuously for 20 minutes to make it cardio. So that's for cardiovascular endurance. Now, when it comes to strength, which is the strength training on push-ups, if you reach failure within 90 seconds, that's always a good judge that it was strength and it wasn't endurance. There are 6 components of fitness, and you have cardiovascular strength, cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, muscular endurance, and then you have flexibility and body composition, the 6 components of fitness. And people always get a lot of those confused. So if you think about, if you're out for a walk, you're already working on your muscular endurance in your legs. You don't have to worry about doing that when it comes to strength training. Whenever you're doing some form of strength training with some form of resistance, you should always go to failure. I don't want you to hurt yourself, but you shouldn't stop as soon as it hurts. Many times people stop as soon as it hurts, and then you're not making your muscles or your heart learn to adapt and get stronger. So you have to make sure that you have reached failure so that during your strength training, so especially with your push-ups. So those are the 6 components of fitness. I went over the FIT principle. Yeah, the other T is type. So type would be what type of aerobic activity it is, correct? So aerobic activity would be using large muscle groups for at least 20 minutes. So most sports are anaerobic. So most sports, they stop and start. Basketball, they stop and start. Hockey, they stop and start. So aerobic activity would be walking, running, and it depends on what kind of group exercise class. Whenever I'm teaching all of my group exercise classes, I try to keep people moving for the entire time for the class. And one of my jokes about my classes is whenever I'm teaching yoga or Pilates, or especially yoga, when I want them to stay in the pose and get the strength, they keep on moving. And whenever I'm teaching cardiovascular classes, they keep on stopping, and it should be the other way around. So I'm always laughing in my yoga classes. I'm like, stay still, stay in the pose, either stretch or work on the strength, depending on if it's a power move or power pose, or if it's just more of a relaxing stretching pose. In the cardio activity classes, you have to keep on moving. So I went over all of those FIT principle and the 6 components of fitness. And I used a lot of those ideas helping my mother. My mother was very active. She loved to ballroom dance. If you didn't already know it, ballroom dancing is the 2nd best form of exercise, and walking is the 1st best. So my mother was always a big walker, and she always loved to ballroom dance. And I mentioned in my last video, if you have a parent or grandparent or even a great-grandparent that is doing something that's some form of art that's challenging their brain, and then they somehow stop because of maybe nighttime vision, driving, all that kind of stuff. Try to make sure you keep that going. If in hindsight, my mother used to drive 90 minutes one way to go to a ballroom dance. And when her eyes started to fail and the nighttime driving got too scary for her and she stopped. And I would really hazard to guess is that's when she started to go downhill with her dementia. She didn't show any forms of dementia until she was 84. I don't truly believe that my mother had Alzheimer's. She didn't do anything compulsive, and she didn't try to drive anymore. She didn't try to cook. She was kind of like a teenager where she didn't want to clean and she didn't want to eat her greens, but she didn't do anything compulsive. She kind of knew that what some of her limitations, so she stopped. And I really think sometimes if I had spent some time trying to make sure that I kept her going out ballroom dancing, because my mother could do both sides. She could lead and she could follow quite a few dances. She could lead rumba, Viennese waltz, polka, waltz. She loved cha-cha. She loved East Coast swing, which is also called Lindy Hop. And I can follow every single social dance out there myself, and I can also lead many of them. The only dance that I don't do at all is just Argentine tango, only because I just don't like the music. So I always suggest to people, find a dance that is your favorite type of music. So if you love Latin music, salsa music, then learn salsa, bachata, merengue. If you love pop music and rhythm and blues, then West Coast swing is the dance for you. So I really wanted to make sure that you incorporate some form of art. And then as a caregiver, as I mentioned in my last video, you could use some form of art to challenge yourself and with your caregiving. So even if your caregivee, your parent or relative, is doing some form of art, maybe you could learn that and keep them going with that as well. Now I wanted to show you my cardio tracker. So one of the biggest mistakes that I've heard my entire career is people will ask me, or they always judge their exercise by the distance. So it should be the time, right? I said 20 to 60 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week is when it's according to the FIT principle. And somehow people always kind of think about the distance, and the distance is not black and white. Time is always black and white. And I know there was that whole big program from the government, 10,000 steps a day. But if you really think about why are people being pushed to use pedometers, it has to be because you have to buy a pedometer. But if you just use your watch, you don't have to buy anything else. And you can obviously use your phone for timing yourself. So I mentioned in some other previous videos, I time myself a lot. It's a way to see what time the day is, how long I've been out for a walk, even how long I take a nap, how long I sleep. I write it in my energy tracker and kind of plot out, because people always have a cycle. So you're always going to be stronger, maybe 2 to 3 weeks a month, and then there's always going to be a week in there when you're a little bit tired. That's just how our body goes. We can't be the Energizer Bunny constantly. You're going to have to go up and go down. That's how the roller coaster of life is. So this is my cardio tracker for February. So I also combine on the 2-page spread my meditations too. So first I just wanted, you could make your cardio tracker really fancy. Sometimes I think about maybe drawing clocks, but then if I go over an hour, which I do frequently go over an hour, just the loops that I do around my town. And actually I know COVID has caused a lot of chaos in the world, but of course with everything there's always good things that come from bad. And actually I do that frequently. I'll say if everything happens for a reason, and I will list, even when my father passed away, and I will forever miss my father, I wrote a list of if everything happens for a reason, why did he die right when he died? And it was that I did come up with 37 reasons. Number one, maybe because my father never wanted to be a burden, so I ended up taking care of my mother. And that freed me up, and I also had some extra money with my inheritance from him, so it wasn't so stressful. So every single day I write the time, and this was when I was only walking because this was February, so I wasn't swimming, and we still had some problems with COVID and everything, so I wasn't swimming. I usually And now coming up for this summer, I have been given 3 classes at my college. So I will be changing my cardio tracker to list so I can put down what I did for each kind of class. And I divvy up what I do and what I do physically so I don't overtrain, as well as giving my students a variety in their exercise. The whole key is variety. And I've watched people for decades go and do the exact same thing. They have their favorite Stairmaster, their favorite treadmill, which I don't get why you go to a gym just to get on the treadmill when you can walk around outside. I haven't ever seen a study, but if anybody's ever seen a study between people's cardiovascular and versus on a treadmill versus outside, I would really be curious to know. I would bet that you have a higher VO2 max from walking and physically moving through space outside or any sport or any movement versus getting on a treadmill or a Stairmaster. And I can't see that when I'm teaching in health clubs because they'd fire me. But think about it. You don't have to, in my college classes, I tell my students, you don't have to have a gym membership to stay in shape. There's plenty of things you can do with your own body, and gravity as your own resistance, and plenty of little things. So this is my cardio. And I also spend a lot of time making a conscious effort of remembering my day, remembering my week, remembering my month. I have a memory tracker, a daily memory sketch that I do to remember what happened on that day. And I really enjoy looking back through that too. So this is just a simple list: the time, notes, the route that I did, if I met anybody, if I met someone's name and their dog as well. A lot of times I remember the dog's name and forgot the owner's name. And then my meditation tracker. So I just draw crazy pictures that came to mind. Sometimes I'm listening to a meditation track that's guiding me. Sometimes I'm just listening to relaxation music, trying to work on my breathing. The book by James Nestor, Breathe, talks about you should breathe less and only breathe through your nose. That's really beneficial. So I always make sure I keep my mouth shut when I'm walking and when I'm meditating. So this is some goofy stuff, goofy pictures, and what I visualize when I'm meditating. And so as you can see up on the top right there on the 5th, February 5th, I did 16 minutes sitting up straight back up against a wall. And I always straddle my legs, try to pull them apart to stretch my adductors and pull my head back, my shoulders back on my wall. And then I usually will finish with a final stretch, which I'll show you in my healthy habits spread. So that was my first cardio tracker. So the next one is my April. This is my April one. So we just finished this. Today's May 1st, 2022. So I blocked out a few things that were private, but I wrote down a list of what I did. Now I'm starting to be able to swim. It's getting warmer. I know I'm from New England, but I'm still a wimp. I'm still a pansy, as my father always said about it being cold. And actually, I'm also listening to the book Lifespan by David Sinclair. And it is ironic how we spend so much time making sure that we are warm and fed. And his research shows that you live longer when you're challenging your body by being hungry and cold. It just seems like such a conundrum in life, right? So I write down how many minutes. Like I said, most of the time I do go more than an hour, just the loops that I do. And I wrote down some notes and consciously. As a teacher, I'm always frustrated when they judge teachers by how much our students remember and learn. But my frustration with many students is they're not making the conscious effort to remember and learn. And when I give them homework and make them handwrite, cursive, write out their final, they balk and they squawk and they hate doing it. But your teachers are trying to figure out ways to make you learn and remember. So don't squawk at your teacher when he or she tries to make you learn, right? So yesterday's meditation I was listening to a meditation track that had noises that sounded like a whale. So that's what I kept thinking about, a whale. So sometimes I also try to practice my drawing without any reference. which is always really good for your brain, right? I think I'm going to do that in the future. You should try to draw without a reference, and that is the best brain puzzle there is. And if you have an iPad with an Adobe Fresco, which is a free drawing program, if you make a mistake, you just double tap with 2 fingers and it's gone. Or of course, if you use a pencil, you can erase it. So that's a good best brain puzzle. So this was my April cardio and meditation, so a way to focus. And of course, I don't meditate every day, as you can see here. I always feel good after I do it. I'm sure everybody that meditates always feels good, but sometimes making yourself sit down to do it, even when it's only 5 to 10 minutes. And I try to do 17 minutes up straight against the wall, which is sometimes a challenge on my rhomboids, but it's always really good. So that's the final April cardio meditations. Next, I wanted to talk about strength. Now, some people over the years, some people love cardio and hate strength, and some people are the other way around. And I will admit, I love cardio and I don't really like strength, but I know all the benefits of having strong muscles. So I always do my strength too. I like to hold the yoga poses to work on my strength. But there are some controversy when it comes to Western medicine has studies showing that when you do isometric work, isometric is when you're holding the muscle, when you're holding the pose, you're holding it's the whole joke. I remember as a kid when we were little, we used to say, I must increase my bust. So you're pushing against here. And when you have a force that's not moving, that's considered isometric. So there's no lengthening or shortening of the muscles. And isotonic is free weights, and isokinetic are all the equipment in fitness centers with the pulleys. So push-ups is isotonic, and the plank that's part of yoga is isometric because you're only strong in that one position. They have studies. So, and then in yoga, when you're doing chaturangas, which are basically a push-up, you're only doing maybe 8 to 10 of those during the entire hour of the class. So that's why I always do push-ups after a yoga class or on my strength day. So if you remember, when it comes to strength training, though, they should be every other day, not 2 to 3 non-consecutive days. So with all of my classes, most of my classes only meet 2 days a week nowadays. It used to be 3 days a week, which I thought was ideal, and I like that better. But now all classes are usually just either a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday for an hour and a half. So what I always encourage all of my classes is to pick one more day, and I actually will have them show me on their phone and have their phone remind them on a weekend, on a Saturday or a Sunday, not both, that is their strength day, so that they do one set of push-ups. Because if you go from, say my class meets Monday, Wednesday, and they finish doing the yoga or any kind of class that I teach, which I always combine cardio with strength training with my cardio classes. Of course, with my yoga Pilates classes, I'm not doing any cardio in those classes. But if they just had the class on a Wednesday and then they do no strength training or nothing involving strength whatsoever from Wednesday all the way around back to the following Monday, I don't believe that they're going to see any differences during that semester or even during their life. You need to do it 3 days a week would be my professional opinion. And I will show you in my push-up challenge where I did it. So they also have studies showing that you get 90% of your strength gains in the first set. So, and I used to teach this when I was in grad school working at a health club. I taught somebody, sat them down on leg extension, leg press, leg curl, and taught them 3 sets of 10. And I didn't know any better. I was just starting grad school, and even the Muscle and Fitness and Shape magazines that I read from cover to cover didn't really mention this, that you have to reach failure. So if 10 or 12 is not your failure, and if you just stop at 10 or 12, then you're not going to be challenging your muscles and making them learn to adapt. So now when I teach people, and I rarely teach people using the leg extension and leg curl, by the way, has a lot of controversy, and you don't really ever just do your quadriceps in life or just your hamstrings. So if you're doing the isokinetic equipment in a gym, you should be doing leg press or Smith machines or squats, holding dumbbells or lunges. Doing lunges holding dumbbells would be the ultimate. Going nice and slow all the way down, making sure your front knee does not go past your shoelaces and you can just barely touch your back kneecap on the ground and get a big range of motion, and then your legs are going to be strong to that entire range of motion. I don't need a lot of strength in my legs. I need endurance for dancing, for teaching all my classes, and for walking. So when I'm out walking, I always do squats and chairs when I'm sitting at a red light waiting across the street. So I keep it cardio. Like I mentioned, if your legs stop within that 20 minutes, then it's not considered cardio. So I always keep my legs moving unless I'm stopping and talking to somebody, and then I just talk to them anyways. But I want to encourage you that you should you can throw in the chairs. And I don't care what people think. If someone's driving by and sees me do a squat or a chair, I don't care what they think. I think that's the biggest problem for when it comes to a lot of things in life. You care what other people think. And why do you care if someone's driving by and sees you doing a chair or a squat? All they're going to think is that I'm staying in shape. So I want to encourage you not to worry what other people think. But I don't like really doing strength training. Most days on my non-strength day, I think, oh, good, today's just my cardio day. I don't have to do any of my push-ups. But even with my mother, and what's true for a lot of elderly is, I think my perception is they stopped drinking water. My mother hated water, and that was a major change that I think really helped her I encouraged her, I tricked her, I bribed her, mildly forced her to drink water. And when she got water in her, she was nicer. Her brain was thinking. She didn't repeat herself so much. Dehydration causes every imaginable problem. And my mother, whenever she would drink water, she would complain that then she would have to pee. And I don't get why people don't like to pee. Peeing is like breathing. It's something you have to do, right? You have to always be peeing. So I would make her do chair squats over her bed. Just sit down maybe 15 times to keep her leg strength so that she wouldn't be afraid to drink water, because sitting down to pee is a squat. And that's why squats are functional training. And that's why sometimes even when I get up off the couch, if that was a little bit of a challenge, then I will do 15, 20 of them. So I want to make sure that I have muscular endurance in my legs to be able to get down, sit down, stand up from a chair. That's functional training. But there's nothing else in my life where I need to have heavy duty strength in my legs. There's some people with jobs. I see somebody in my condo complex when they were pulling the termites, and they had to use their leg strength to pull, and their upper body and their back for pulling that big tarp over. So things like that, if you have something like that where you need strength in your legs, then yes, I think you should go to the gym or hold dumbbells at home if you don't have a gym membership, and that's okay, to keep your legs strong for lots of different reasons, right? But for me, I only need muscular endurance and enough to be able to stand up. So here is my push-up challenge for 2021. I did show this in a previous video, but I thought I would show it to you guys over again. So whenever I finish my push-ups, I always do more push-ups on my knees a little bit slower. So like I mentioned, you only need one set of strength training to get 90% of your strength. You don't have to do so many sets. So doing a total body strength workout could only take you 10 minutes. If you do one set of squats or lunges at home, and if you keep challenging yourself, even if you put your feet on some kind of device that challenges your balance, right? Standing on little circular air-filled things for your squats or your lunges would really challenge going slow, really challenge your core balance. So I wanted to show you. This is 2021, as I mentioned, and I set this up because I didn't want to repeat it every single month. This is for the entire year, but it is really cool to look back. And I also have an energy tracker, which I will show you in a little bit, that I wanted to see about the weather, even about the moon, about my hours of sleep. I have a food reaction tracker that I've mentioned in a previous video. Just keep track of how food affects you. People don't seem to have realization that food affects you. We know that there is a cause and effect with food. You know that if you eat too much meat, sometimes, although it is sugar, causes high cholesterol as well. And if you have a runny nose or you're really tired, that's usually an allergic reaction to the food. So keep track of your food reactions to food. If your nose runs, of course, if you have a bellyache, if you're really tired, of course, the very first sign of dehydration is fatigue. So if you're tired, drink some water. So this is 2021 push-up challenge. I did it every other day. Most times I do it every day. Once in a while I would forget. And then I wanted to show you my 2022 so far. And I just finished doing this yesterday. So I don't fill this out on this every time. I actually yesterday spent last night filling out for the entire 3 months for February, March. So I always write it in my other daily journal, daily what I did. But then I also list what kind of push-ups. So I don't, like I said, I don't really like my strength training. So I make the push-ups hard so I can't do very many. But I want to always be able to do at least 10 of them. You don't want to make it so it's so hard you can't do at least 4, or hopefully at least 10. So I always do high feet. So if you look at the bottom here, the HFW is high feet wide, HFD is high feet diamond, the normal wide, and the colors there, the bottom, middle there, you can see where I have normal, diamond, and then slow. So I always put my feet up on the back of a chair, a regular chair. It's a recliner kind of chair. It's not a recliner. I just sit up straight in there. I don't crunch myself all up. And then after I reach failure on my feet up high, then I bring my feet down on the ground and drop my knees. Keep my hips straight, right? You have to keep your hips straight. So you have this goofy little picture there of myself with my hips completely extended, right? So you don't want to be hyperextended with your hips sagging down. You don't want to have your butt up in the air. You want to have your body perfectly straight like a board. That's why it's called plank. And I do it every other day. And I did decide for this year, I want to see if I can do 2 sets, maybe to get that last 10%, but more often than not, I never get to my second set in the day. I try to do 1 set before I go for my walk, and then I come back and do my second set, but sometimes I come back and I'm just hungry, so I never end up doing my second set. But this is my goofy little push-up challenge. I would encourage you to keep a push-up challenge for yourself. I did mention in some previous videos on how to do a push-up, but I have a good little picture here. See how my hands are right below my shoulders? That's what you want to create. If you have your hands too high under your face, it makes the push-up doubly harder. And you want to make sure that you're kind of creating a diamond, and it's kind of an arrow with your hands and your face over the space over your hands, right? So people always have the hands too high, and you also want to make sure your hands are flat, right? The more times you use your fingers, flatten out the fingers so there's no space under your hands. That's also challenging your brain, because the most amount of real estate in your brain is from your fingers. So make sure that you flatten out your fingers. Don't let your hands roll out. And when your wrists do start to hurt, try to stay there and practice flattening out your hands. Maybe just holding the plank, the top part of the push-up, right? Don't stop and shake out your hands. If you stop and shake out your hands, first of all, that's bad for your wrist. Second of all, you're not training your hand and learning how to do that with your brain telling your hand how to do it. So try staying there and don't stop and shake out your hands. So this is my push-up challenge, my sec for 2022. Next, I want to go over my spread that I call Healthy Habits. Because there's so many things in life we're supposed to be doing that we can't possibly do all of them every day, right? So I kind of separated them all out in a monthly spread that I can kind of track. Even when it comes to some household chores, you don't have to do every vacuuming every week or twice a week, things like that. So if I write it down in which I have separated out my month by 2 weeks, right? week 1 and 2. So week 1 of the month, then I'll make sure I do certain household chores to get to that part of my little cleaning thing. But I think that's also true for our body, right? So here is my health habits. So I did in a previous video what I call the friendship wheel. So I want to make sure I catch up with some friends. You know, social isolation causes many, many problems. And of course, after you have a good time with a friend and catch up, you always feel fantastic, right? So I organize, try to make sure I see a friend. I pick 2 days a month that I don't even think about any habits or my to-do list, try to go to the beach or do something for drawing, right? So try to, I've been doing a little bit of research on oil pulling, but I don't want to do oil pulling every day. I try to do that 3 days a week. So I put down on Mondays, Wednesdays, what's the other day? There may be Wednesday, Thursdays, oil pulling in there. I got it Monday, 3 days a week. See, I look at Mondays and Saturdays, but I can't see the other one. Anyways, and then drinking lemon water. I have a really good blender. I have a BlendTech blender. I just put the whole lemon in there. And luckily for me, there's plenty of lemon trees in my neighborhood. And I actually plot that out on my cardio tracker where the lemon trees are. And try to moisturize, not every day, but I try to do it every day. So like I mentioned, you should be doing your stretching after your cardio, right? And downward dog and a quad stretch stretches out every major muscle. So downward dog stretches out your calves, your hamstrings, your chest, and your big latissimus dorsi. And then if you do a quad stretch by grabbing your ankles, you have stretched out your entire body. So, but then I want to do a little bit extra, but I don't want to do every single stretch every day unless I'm teaching one of my yoga classes. So I separated that out. And I also really like the foam roller. Rolling on the foam roller is really beneficial as well, but you can't spend time foam rolling the entire body every day. So as you can see here, I separated out the body parts. So on Mondays, I foam my thighs, and I also do a little extra stretching on my quadriceps. On Mondays, on Tuesdays, I foam my feet and then stretch a little bit extra on my hamstrings. I'll hold another standing forward fold or seated forward fold. Wednesday, you can see I stretch out my chest a little bit more. I don't really ever feel the stretch in my chest during downward dog, mainly because I'm always focusing on my posture. So my chest is in my pectoral majors is not being shortened because my posture isn't rounding, and that's a major problem for back pain. Back pain is major caused by bad posture, weak muscles, and tight muscles. So if you focus on sitting up nice and straight and doing all of the posture links that I will keep teaching you, then your chest won't be so shortened and it won't be such a struggle to sit up straight. And then you can also spend time on reclining cobbler, stretching out your chest, laying on your back with something rolled up small, like a rolled up yoga mat, or even a towel right up your spine. So you try to curl around that when you're laying on your back. So then I try to foam my butt on Wednesdays, do a little extra stretching on my calves on Thursdays, foam my calves. Friday, I stretch my low back by doing a spinal twist. And then when it comes to foaming my upper back on Friday, I foam roll my upper back almost every day. I like how that feels. And if you haven't started the dry brushing of your body, try that. I just take a regular brush from brushing dishes and stuff. I don't use the same brush as my dishes, but I have it hanging in my shower. And I'll dry brush my body before I take a shower sometimes, or before I take a bath. And that really stimulates your lymph glands and everything. That has a really good feeling. As you can see, I try to remember to deep condition my hair once a month. I don't always get to that, or even especially in the first week. And also, I also went to massage school, and there is a map of the body on the eyes, the ears, the hands, the skull, the feet. So my philosophy is you might as well try to get some form of massage twice a month. So that could be a foot massage, getting a manicure or a nail sometimes. And I did do that. It's in my other previous cardio trackers. I found somebody, the manicure places, to just massage my hands. I don't really want my fingernails and my toenails painted, but I want the foot massage and I want the hand massage. And I also try to get a facial. There are several beauty schools around me, so I go to the beauty schools for facials. They're always trying out new things, and I always learn from meeting more and more estheticians, because there's an expression, teach what you want to learn, but also healers become healers to heal themselves. So I've learned from talking to so many people, especially people going to school for estheticians, some of the issues that they had and what they learned. So when I was in my early 20s, I realized that dairy was giving me severe cystic acne. And then I realized, okay, no more dairy. And sometimes I want to tell that to people, but I don't want them to hate my guts for telling them. But dairy does cause acne. And for me, it did cause deep cystic acne in my early 20s. So this is my healthy habits. So I would encourage you to copy me. And if you have any other suggestions in there, I try to do a veggie smoothie fast once a month. I don't always get to that too, but I try. We put it out there. We try. Let me know if you have any other suggestions on what you add into your healthy habits for your month. The last thing I wanted to go over would be my energy tracker. So I like my bullet journal as a way of kind of doing a study on myself. And I try to give extra credit for my students to create their bullet journal, and even when it comes to all their homework for all their classes. But I think it's the food reaction tracker I mentioned, the push-up challenge. It's kind of a study on yourself, and I decided that I wanted to really track my energy and what days that I'm really strong. Is it to do with the moon? Is it to do, I don't like it when it's raining and overcast here in California. That's one reason why I moved from Massachusetts to California. When it's raining and overcast, it just makes me feel miserable. I don't really think I have the seasonal affective disorder, but it just really makes me feel miserable and tired and don't want to do anything when it's raining and overcast. That's why I will never leave California. I will always stay in warm weather, no matter what happens with politics. So here is my energy tracker. So I try to list out how many hours of sleep, and on my other daily calendar, I write the exact hours I slept. And like I mentioned, I use my watch to track how many hours, and if sometimes I'll put in a nap, see how I did. I haven't written out all the moon phases here. I do have a moon calendar, but probably at the end of 2022 and the end of this year, I'm going to sit down and just see if there's any, maybe even figure out some other kind of a spread to track everything. Maybe even put it all into an Excel spreadsheet if I really have the time, as I'm trying to work on my book and some other ideas, right? And then if you see the columns on the right, the energy 1 to 10, which is just completely subjective by my own vision of it. And then creativity. Now sometimes you have a lot of creative ideas, so that's why I wrote down 14 there on the 22nd. So if I really feel creative that day, is it the moon? Is it the sun? Is it more sleep? I don't have, by the way, I don't have any kind of tracker for my water. I got in the habit at some point in my career, I know how important water is, that I always keep some form of water near me, and I'm always sipping. And I do notice that even when I'm home in the afternoon sitting out on my patio, I always fill up, and here it is right here in between this video. I've been drinking my hot tea, sipping my hot tea. Right, I realize when I finish this whole glass, I'll go to pee and fill it up and go back out and sit in the sun and read some more. And it just seems like, and that's how I get enough water in me all day, and that's how I feel terrific. And that's what I used to bother my mother about, because there was a book that I used to have in her bedroom, said, "Don't treat your thirst with medications," by a doctor. I don't remember the last name, but it's a really good book, and it just shows how every single problem, a lot of them could be tied to dehydration. And I don't believe that doctors ask everybody how much water they're drinking. They're probably assuming that you're drinking plenty of water, and I don't believe people are, because I've had many students tell me, "I drink a lot of water," and I'll say, how much is a lot. And I have had many students show me those little tiny water bottles about that big, and they'll say, I drink this a day. Now, that's not a lot. You can overdo water. I have read some articles when people really overdo water, but I think if you just get in the habit of sipping all day, so whenever I'm waiting for my computer, if you see that scrolling, or I just get in the habit of always sipping the water and I don't have to track it. That would be more, there are some of my habits I don't really track because I just do them normally. I even put flossing in my healthy habits there, but I don't have to really track my flossing. And actually I didn't. When the beginning of the pandemic, I was sitting down and I was getting the habit of flossing, but I got in the habit of that, and now I don't really track that as much, but I still have that on my healthy habits. So I want to encourage you to, of course, drink water. And when I say water, I mean water. I don't mean anything else but pure water, right? If you drink all the other things, and I just saw it up in my college. I teach a badminton class on Sunday nights, which I'll go there tonight, and I see the whole garbage full of Gatorades. It was 0 water, and the very first ingredient is water with some other stuff, and it's 0, so there's aspartame and maybe some other problems in there. So don't default to the truth. Research everything, look up everything. One of the problems I had with my mother when she went to the hospital, because the police insist on it, and that's another issue I have in my book, is I told them no sugar. So they gave my mother Crystal Light, and Crystal Light has a sweetener, aspartame, which has side effects of causing suicidal thoughts. And my mother was depressed after leaving there. So can you see the irony in there? You're at a medical center that they're testing people for some kind of cognitive problems or mental problems, and then they give a product that has a side effect of causing depression and sadness. So do you see the irony in there? So that's why I like Malcolm Gladwell's book when he talks about don't default to the truth. And that's a lot of things that I have in my book, that don't default to the truth. There's lots of issues out there that we assume. And then even when it comes to the neurological tests, I always want to laugh because I can't find the scientific evidence on some of the neurological tests that have probably been passed down for many decades, and people just assume that there's studies on it. Like there's one neurological test having them list how many words that you can remember that start with the letter F. F. My mother never used the other major F word, but she always got like 7 words. So why do you think they pick F? Is there any scientific data? If anybody knows, and you have been doing this, and I have been posting on many other YouTube videos asking people if they know what the scientific data is for the 3-word recall test and the cube drawing test. So that's part of my issues with some of the people are always defaulting to the truth, and I don't think that the right hand is talking to the left hand when it comes to memory. So at the end of this, I want you to drink more water. I harass the living bejeebas from my students to drink more water. You always feel better when you drink more water. And sometimes if you get yourself home and you're too tired to make yourself a big healthy dinner, I would challenge you to sit down, drink a big glass of water, spend at least 15 minutes drinking a big glass of water or sugar-free tea or sugar-free iced tea, and then you're going to feel better and you'll make yourself a nice healthy dinner. In conclusion, and I want to thank you, a big pat on your back for sitting and listening. Of course, you could always listen to my videos. I guess you couldn't. I listen to videos while I'm out walking. So if it doesn't require me to see something. So with my videos, you have to look at some of my spreads, but sometimes you could just listen to me when you're out walking and then come back and look at my spreads on your own, right? So the end, I'm always going to teach what I call a posture link. So over my decades of teaching, I realized that most of my students could not do some of the easy, just sitting up on the ground without holding their legs or without holding themselves up with their hand because they're always slumping the rest of their life. So I created what I call posture links. And if you work on your posture, you're also working on your core strength. My mother had really good posture. My mother always kind of reminded me of Lucille Ball, the way that she held herself, really kind of regal, which I think maybe that's why she didn't show any signs of dementia until after she stopped doing so much ballroom dancing. So today's posture link, and I want to thank you for sticking it out, and I hope that me not showing all these images will help you, challenge you to concentrate. But today's posture link is to sit up straight whenever you're eating. Think about that. It takes 15 minutes for your stomach, for your brain to tell your stomach to tell your brain, that you're full. So if you eat slower, you won't eat as much. You'll help with your digestion because you have 28 feet of your digestion. And you'll also work on your core strength, right? Because people sometimes will bring their mouth close to the food and shovel it in really, really fast. And then I think a lot of times, if you don't remember eating, you're going to eat again. And that was the case with my mother. So if you slow down, you might remember that you ate and you won't get hungry. So with my mother, she was hungry like every 90 minutes. So sometimes we were out and I would order her some food, and then we would eat, and I would stay and talk to people, and she'd walk around the restaurant, and we'd both talk to people. And sometimes she'd come back and say, oh, when are we going to get something to eat? So if you think about it, you're only really full for maybe a half an hour, even after a big full meal. So if you ate really darn fast, and you ate so fast you don't remember, you're going to be hungry again because you don't remember when you ate. So slow down your eating. Give your stomach a chance to tell your brain when you're full. You do know that high fructose corn syrup, which is one of the things that I did for my mother, I kept her away from high fructose corn syrup, because when she got high fructose corn syrup, that's when she was mean and delusional, calling me an effing whore, right? It is the food supply that's feeding right into meds and that's causing all these problems. So when she got a lot of that stuff, that's when she was difficult. And when I got water into her, she was the nicest person ever. So high fructose corn syrup has no benefits whatsoever. Your body can't use it for energy, and it turns off your signal in your brain telling you when you're full. So that's why when people cut out sugar and cut out soda, then they end up losing a lot of weight. So don't eliminate processed, simple carbohydrates. I do know that a lot of literature says in moderation, but I don't believe that, because half the time people will say in moderation, but they don't have a rule for themselves, and sometimes moderation is every single meal. So, and when you have something sugary, your brain's going to remember that you loved it, no matter how many years later. I still can remember in Massachusetts in '89, I used to eat something that wasn't very healthy. It wasn't super bad. It was those Cool Ranch Doritos with cheese dips. I haven't had those since '89, and I still remember how good they are, because your brain remembers that. So if you're out and somebody hands you something free candy, free something in a farmer's market, I always go, no thanks, because I know that my brain's going to remember how good that is. And I always have my students always constantly say, but it's so good. And I'm like, yes, I know it is really good. The scientists, the food scientists, have number one, figured out how to create a bliss point. And number two, they haven't figured out how to mess with your hormones. So avoid, eliminate processed, simple carbohydrates, and you will feel so much better. I mentioned in an earlier video, and I still distinctly remember this myself. I did eat some bagel bites right after my father had passed away, and I got this wave of depression that I never felt before or since, because that something in those bagel bites, that processed food, was causing my wave of depression. So if you processed food also has studies showing that it causes anxiety and depression, and that I think a lot of times in schools and colleges, and even my college, they have a taco truck come up there every day. I want to say to them, why are we having a taco truck come up here? But I haven't bothered with that. So drink your water, sit up straight while you're eating your salads. When you get yourself home, drink a big glass of water, and then make yourself a big green salad or something with greens, right? You need to get your greens in every day. Thanks a lot for staying, and I would really appreciate any kind of a comment. By the way, I have and it's something for you. I have a behavior change contract that I will email you. If you make a comment and give me your email address, I will email you a behavior change contract as well as a PowerPoint presentation that's actually on one of my medias, but I'll just email it to you. It's a PowerPoint that shows you how to fill out a behavior change contract. So you can pick one behavior that you want to change, which could be water, could be push-ups, could be getting your PhD, could be everything. This behavior change contract will have you sit down and plan out. I always remember from Will Smith's book when the director of Ali told Will Smith that he would give him a curriculum on how to become a fighter. And I thought, everybody can do that. Lay it all out, what your goal is, and plan out how you're going to do that. And the behavior change contract that I will email you will help you do that. So thanks a lot for sticking out. My name is Kayleen again. The name of my book is called Mom Remembers Me. It will hopefully be out by the end of this summer. Thanks a lot and hope you have a great day. And I'm going to go for my walk now. Take care.